Ravens flock. The flock rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. So I'm telling you now, it's about to go down. The podcast, the flock rundown. Ravens, baby. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. So the Ravens have a ton of free agents who are playing really well, by the way. So I want to go over these free agents and talk about who I would want to extend right now before we even get to free agency in the offseason. And then I'm curious to see who you guys think that the Ravens should extend this year or possibly re-sign next year, because we're going to have to make some tough decisions and let a lot of guys go. The Ravens should have around $27 million of free cap space next offseason. But their free agents are Justin Madubuike, Patrick Queen, Jadeveon Clowney, Michael Pierce, Gus Edwards, Odell Beckham Jr., Kevin Zeitler, Geno Stone, J.K. Dobbins. If you're Eric DeCosta, who are you extending right now so that you don't risk them hitting free agency and having their cap go through the roof? To me, the most important to keep on that list are Patrick Queen and Justin Madubuike. I think it would hurt to lose one of them or both of them. They're hard to replace, especially the way they're playing this year. Geno Stone is obviously playing out of his mind this year, but we are tied up to Marcus Williams' contract, and the way Geno Stone's playing, he's going to get a payday somewhere, and I would love for that to be in Baltimore, but I just don't see it. I don't see how we can afford to sign another big-time safety contract when we have Marcus Williams. And I think the way Patrick Queen's playing, his relationship to Roquan on and off the field is great. I feel like that tandem, that linebacker tandem, would be incredible to lock up for the next 4 or 5 years. I would have extreme confidence moving forward with the middle of our defense if that's our linebacker core. It's the best linebacker duo in football, and I would love to keep it that way. I would try everything I can to get a Patrick Queen extension done so that he doesn't hit free agency, because I feel like a team could really pay up for him to be their star middle linebacker. But we know that he's best paired with Roquan, and I'm not saying he can't have success on his own in another defense. I feel like he could, but I feel like he's going to shine the best in the situation that he's in now, and that's what's best for our team as well. Now, Justin Madubuike is also playing out of his mind this year. I'm not surprised. I feel like he was just getting more and more playing time as the years go and just becoming a better and better player. I feel like we're going to see that with Travis Jones in the future as well. He's one of those guys that is just coming on stronger and stronger and stronger, and Madubuike is going to get paid. I would love to keep him. I feel like that's a rising star in this league. We let the Judons walk, the Zadarius Smiths walk. It would be nice to keep a guy that I know is going to keep performing year after year and honestly keep getting better. So as long as the payday is not crazy, I'm not saying 15 plus million. If he's getting that somewhere, he's gone. But if we can keep him at a reasonable price, lock that in. That's why you do deals ahead of time. You don't let them hit free agency. Unless it's like a borderline guy where you don't believe in his market, then you let him go test free agency, and then you're like, see, I told you there's not a team ready to pay you X amount that you said you were worth. But in Justin Madubuike's case, he's going to get paid. He's putting up the numbers this year, and just turn on the tape. Dude's wrecking lines right now, busting through, getting sacks. Everything's lined up for him to get paid. He's going to get paid. I just hope that we can get it done early. Now, the other names, Jadeveon Clowney, you can add Van Noy into that. I don't think that we re-sign Van Noy. I feel like he's one of those Jason Pierre-Paul signings where he just comes in and produces really well, but it's like just this year. And Jadeveon Clowney might be that as well. It really depends on the price. I would love to keep Clowney at a value. I feel like he's got a few years left, and is playing really well in this defense. Harbaugh talked about how he's always been a Raven. They just didn't know it and things like that. And I feel like they would want to keep a guy like Clowney around, just his athleticism, his ability to disrupt, his dominance in the run game or run defense. I feel like Clowney would be a great piece to keep around and probably wouldn't cost a ton, but that price just has to be right. Definitely interested in keeping Clowney. I feel like Michael Pierce is probably gone. He may retire. I heard a few years ago when he signed this Ravens contract that this was it. I could see him maybe signing a one-year deal just to stay with Baltimore and that be his last year if he really is motivated to continue to play football, but that would be it. I don't think we're going to pay him much. Gus Edwards is an interesting one. We're definitely going to have to get a new back next year, whether that's through the draft or free agency or however it may be, or a trade in the offseason. We could still acquire a back. We're going to have to acquire a back. Our running back room's just not deep enough and honestly isn't good enough at the top. Gus Edwards is so solid, though. I would love to keep him for another year or two. I think he's a great complementary piece, brings a nice power run game. He's always showed up when he's been on the field. Gus has done a ton for this team. I just don't think moving forward he's our lead back by any means. So that price would also have to be right, and he's an aging back as well, so I don't think we're going to pay much, but would love to keep Gus around. I just don't think that's going to be a major priority. I think the Ravens are definitely going to be moving in a different direction at running back. Odell Beckham Jr. might be the most interesting one on this list because for a high market value, he ain't going to be worth it moving forward. You're not going to give him a big contract. He clearly brings something to the table. I think, his best games are still ahead, so this conversation could change as the rest of this year plays out. But as of right now, an extension only makes sense because he carries an $11 million dead cap hit next year because we added void years to his contract. So whether he's on the team or not, we have an $11 million cap hit for Odell. So an extension at a low value does make sense because you can bring that down, spread money over the next few years, and keep a veteran wide receiver who can show up in big moments for the next couple years. But unfortunately, over the next few years, I would imagine Odell, his role and skill set and production is probably declining. He's getting older and has had a ton of serious injuries and is not really producing at a high level right now, even though, like I said, this season is yet to still play out fully. I think Odell's biggest moments and his best days are ahead. He hasn't even scored a touchdown. I know that game's coming. Lamar's been trying to force feed him. Wish he didn't force feed him as much, but I know that's coming. But do you extend Odell because of that cap hit, because of his veteran presence and what he brings, or do you just let him walk and bite the bullet and just pay the $11 million cap hit next year? I feel like he's not earned a ton of money right now. He's not going to get a big contract, but I feel like an extension makes sense because you don't want to have to pay $11 million for him to not even be on your roster next year. The contract that we gave him kind of puts us in a little bit of a bind, so I feel like that's the only reason that we should get something done with Odell. Kevin Zeitler makes a lot of sense to re-sign, at least for the next, 2 years. I feel like he's just such a solid rock veteran presence, and we definitely have a little bit of a hole at left guard moving forward. Ronnie Stanley's even a little bit concerning right now, like the future of that left tackle situation. So there's a couple holes on the line, and not having Zeitler or letting Zeitler go creates another hole at right guard because they obviously don't trust Ben Cleveland. We've still yet to see Voorhees, so maybe he is in play in the future, but I don't think Voorhees' first year he's bringing what Zeitler brings to the table, so we would be taking a step back. So I think it might make sense to get Zeitler extended and have him around for another year or two, just so you can limit the damage of holes moving forward. We're not going to have a ton of cap room. We got to let a lot of these guys go, and we're not going to have money to acquire free agents like that. So it's going to be built through the draft, but you know that most of the draft picks aren't coming out of the draft and really contributing at a high level in year one. Maybe your first round, like a Zay Flowers or something, but you draft a lineman in the second or third round, he's not going to be Kevin Zeitler right away. So I think you get Zeitler, you still draft the future, you still keep the future going. Maybe Voorhees is the future, but give him a year, maybe throw him in a little bit here and there in game situations, but give him a year to kind of get his feet wet in the NFL and get his body back right after missing this season. So Zeitler makes a lot of sense. Patrick Queen and or Matabike makes sense. And Odell probably makes sense just because of that void situation. Other than that, it wouldn't. But the rest of the guys probably gone, Maybe Gus Edwards for cheap, but I think Geno Stone's gone for sure. I just think he's priced himself out with how he's performing this year. This is a crazy breakout year for him. He's leading the NFL in interceptions. We really might be able to only keep one of those main guys, It might be Geno, Patrick Queen, or Justin Matabike. Pick one. I'm going with Patrick Queen. Justin Matabike is a close second. I would love to keep both if possible. And then the other guys probably won't command quite as much money, so we might be able to keep a couple of the other guys like a Gus Edwards, maybe a Jadeveon Clowney. Moves like that, we probably can keep a guy or two around. But I'm interested to see, who would you guys extend? Who do you guys want to see stay here for the long term out of these list of free agents that we have? Who would you sign? Who would you let go? And what do you think they're going to be worth? Do you think any of them are going to be affordable? I'm really curious to see what you guys think about this. There's a lot of free agents, a lot of moves to be had. I know we're in the thick of the season right now, and this, necessarily doesn't matter for this year at all. But it's something to think about. We usually do in-season extensions so that some guys don't hit free agency. Appreciate you tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. As always, have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.